Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome back to Ibrox. Now about just over an hour since the game finished. Rangers 2, PSV Eindhoven 2, to ensure that it goes to the second leg in the Netherlands level. A pretty even game all told. I think both sides will be pretty happy with a 2-2 draw. Probably PSV more so than Rangers because they have the home tie to rely on. But as I say, all in all, pretty even tie, not that many chances. Goals either came through mistakes. Both teams benefited from a mistake to score. PSV opened the scoring after the ball kind of ricocheted in the Rangers box, and they were able to open the scoring through Sangare from a corner. Rangers' second goal through Tom Lawrence was through a mistake as well from the goalkeeper, but the first goal was just a fantastically well worked move. Stephen Davis into James Tavernier, very reminiscent of a goal Rangers scored at Ross County at the tail end of 2020, where Tavernier starts to curve his run. Stephen Davis has picked it out before he's even made it, slides the ball through the defence, and Antonio Čolak with an absolutely fantastic finish. I mean, to take it in his stride like that, kind of just step onto the ball and find the bottom corner. 4-4 for him, and I thought he was brilliant all night. Probably Rangers' best player for me. But Rangers conceded 2 poor goals. And I know they also scored via a mistake, so you have to consider that. But to concede from 2 set pieces, something we'll be looking at in detail tomorrow on the website. I should say you can subscribe £2 for 2 months at the moment if you want to know why Rangers conceded those types of goals. I'll be up in the small hours trying to answer just that with our stats bomb data and looking at the clips as well, trying to look back at why that happens, because Rangers will certainly need to be a lot tighter in that area when they travel to the Netherlands next week. So I think on the basis of things, it always feels a little bit flat after you concede, having been 2-1 ahead. Equally, Rangers will know that they benefited from a mistake. They had to sort of weather a storm in the second half. Loads of interesting stuff coming out from the 2 managers there in the press conference. Was in the press conference for about half an hour. All told, it was pretty long. Van Nistelrooy was saying that he thought Rangers were better in the first half. His team were better in the second. He said Rangers didn't set up as he thought they would. Some interesting comments there, which again we'll divulge upon a little bit tomorrow in the briefing. And but his side came in, so I thought both teams had kind of 10-15 minutes pockets of control, where the ball, they were maybe both set up in kind of the middle zone, and any said time for 10 minutes, one team would dominate the opposition's half, and then it would kind of switch back. And I think both teams took advantage of the momentum when they had it. So very evenly matched. It'll take a lot to separate them next week, I think. But I think there was a little bit of naturally when you're 2-1 ahead and you can see a goal from a set piece, I think there's a little bit of frustration probably attached to that. But I think on the basis of play, two probably a fair result. Right, let's get through some of these comments. Richard says, a tough match, happy with the result given how the second half panned out. I think that's fair, as we've just been talking about there, Richard. On the basis of play, the second half was for me more dominated by PSV than it was Rangers, and I think in that regard, Rangers kind of scored against the run of play, and although they wouldn't like to concede that type of goal whatsoever, PSV capitalised from set pieces. It was an area Van Bronckhorst said they worked upon going into the game, and they've got a lot of big players in that team, and you can see that at set pieces. Joe says Čolak looks lethal given half a chance. Yeah, that finish was absolutely fantastic, right into the bottom corner. Not an easy one as well, because he's taken it in his stride. I thought he hung back really well instead of just running aimlessly into the box, and Tavernier picked out the big Croatian as well. So yeah, 4-4. Not just that, I think the second half there was a moment where Tavernier found him in behind. He took his shot across the keeper. It was kind of a little bit reminiscent of his goal that he scored at the Broomloan End for Malmo last season when he was going across the keeper. There was another moment where he took the ball in really nicely. I just thought his all-round game was you can see such an improvement in just 2-3 weeks. It's another reminder of the need to give players time. Another reminder that players take time to adapt to teammates, and teammates take time to adapt to new players. So good to see Čolak get on the score sheet again. I'm sure he'll push Alfredo Morelos very hard this season. And he also, off the ball, as Jamie says, he gives absolutely everything, and that can make such a difference for a team up top. Let's get through some more of these questions. Craig says, second half wasn't good enough, to be honest. Poor goals to lose, both of them. All to do next week. Advantage PSV, but still doable. Yeah, Van Bronckhorst kind of wanted to reaffirm, I guess, that latter point. Asked, did they have confidence? He said, yeah, he absolutely did. And I think reading into that a little bit more tonight, this game was different to previous European ties under Van Bronckhorst. In the stadium, it felt a little bit different to me because Rangers didn't really go for that man-for-man approach, try and overwhelm their opponents and go for it within the first 20 minutes in the same way they didn't. They kept a two for one at the back. Sorry, easy for me to say. With James Sands and Connor Goldson on Luke de Jong. Sands, I thought, was really good, and the manager asked him about his performance, and he said he thought he did really well in the duels against Luke de Jong, a big physical, strong striker. But that meant that obviously Cholak was up against the two centre-backs pressing instead of Kent coming in to join him. And what that makes me think is if Rangers, for example, had played that game tonight, 2 each, that had been the final score, but they'd scored 2 goals with that kind of pulsating, pressing, opening 20 minutes and really tried to overwhelm the opposition, I'd be less confident than if they'd kind of went toe-to-toe in that mid-zone with PSV, opened them up on occasion, which I think was the case. So I expect it to be quite a similar game next week, even if PSV would you'd imagine be that a little bit more assertive because they are playing at home. Stewart says defending at corners cost us. Davis should have been man of the match. John says sign Balogun. He stops both those goals. The setup that Rangers have used for set pieces in this game, we've actually been looking at this for a piece on the website soon coming up. Connor Goldson, I think, just having looked at it once or twice, is a spare man. The eventual scorer, whose name escapes me, gets a run on him because either he's not being blocked or whoever is with him at the back post. I think PSV actually had 4 on 2 at the back post, and maybe it was a case that Rangers were marking their 2 best headers of the ball. But it was too easy a goal to concede, too easy to concede a header of that quality from that distance from a corner. So definitely something we'll be looking at in detail tomorrow, and I'm sure Rangers will be spending a lot of time working on the defending corner over the next week. Graham says thoughts on Cholak and Alfie up front. The manager was actually asked about that, Graham, the weekend, and based on his reaction, I don't think it's that likely. He kind of said, I've never done that in my career. Played 2 up top, maybe if we had to force things, but I don't know if that's something that will necessarily be the case this season, but you never know. Watch this space. Gary Gray, good friend of the show, says, gets in touch to say, not the worst result in the world. Onus will be on PSV to attack in the second leg. Hopefully that will enable us to attack on the counter-attack and get a result. Taylor says, confused why we never brought on Matondo instead of Wright. We knew they were a threat from set pieces, but neither side really created a lot of chances. Very close game, and it will be the same next week. Looks echoing that point, why bring Wright on over Matondo? You'd imagine that's probably just because Wright has played in these games before and you know what you're going to get from him defensively. But I don't know. Matondo obviously hasn't played all that much for Rangers, so maybe not a question of quality, but continuity and in Kamara and Wright coming on, players who obviously played in that run to Seville, played the Europa League final. They are players with a good amount of European experience. Let's see what else is in the comments section. Sometimes when you're doing these videos and you're trying to speak and read the comments as well, it does get the better of you, on occasion. James Stevenson gets in touch to say, I think Gio set up not to lose the game tonight. I think that's a bit harsh, to be honest, because again, the manager was just speaking about his setup there, and what he said was, look, when you're playing a team of this quality, you can't just dominate them. You can't just say, okay, this is what we want to do, we're going to do it. You have to earn that. You have to create space, but you have to make sure that you don't leave too much space for PSV to counter into. So I think the nature of this game tonight was a little bit different. To definitely, you felt that first leg factor play a part in the proceedings tonight. And what I mean by that is Rangers couldn't really go for the jugular in the same sense because they have that return leg to go to. And I just don't think that they were going to be able to overwhelm an opponent in the same way they did Red Star. But even going back to that Red Star game, it was a fantastic performance. The expected goals actually ended, I think, in Red Star's favour. So it was a bit of an outlier in terms of the quality of chances created. And European games are difficult. Rangers, I've done so well in them. To get a 2-2 draw with PSV at home in the Champions League qualifiers, a team who finished second in the Eredivisie, is by no means a bad result whatsoever. The question and the challenge now is, can Rangers go away from home and mirror that performance? Because they've not really been able to do that all that much, in my opinion, under Van Bronckhorst. Obviously, they had the win against Borussia Dortmund, which will be long remembered for rightful reasons. But that aside, I don't think they've been brilliant away from home European competition. But yeah, that said, all to be played for next week. I think it's going to be a really intriguing tie. Susie says, what do you think on the clamour for Balogun to be re-signed? I don't think that's very, very fair, to be honest. I don't think it's James Sand's fault that goal goes in. The manager was just speaking about him then. He's very pleased with his performances. Ultimately, it's his opinion that matters. And Balogun's played in a lot of games in Europe the Rangers have conceded goals from before. You can think of the game against Prague here, Slavia Prague here, or I can't think of numerous off the top of my head, but I'm sure he'll have played in games that Rangers have conceded goals, just as any other defender that Rangers sign or will have signed has been in that situation. It's a really high level of competition. This is a team that has a lot of very good players in the squad, and I think that's just the nature of it. Sometimes you will concede goals, although definitely that second one in particular. Rangers got first contact on the first corner, but they didn't get first contact for the second one, and it'll be really disappointing to them for the fact that they conceded a goal of that nature, having gone ahead through Tom Lawrence's free kick. And let me tell you, no one in the world would have been happier to see that free kick going from that distance than our very own Derek Clark, who absolutely loves a shot from distance, absolutely loves Tom Lawrence, so he will have been celebrating that absolutely. Let's just see if there's anything else before we go back. Before we call it a day. We're obviously going to be live tomorrow morning, folks, for the Rangers Review morning briefing at 9:30. We'll see how much sleep I've had by then. You can subscribe to the website, just £2 for 2 months. Do please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, it really helps us out. But tomorrow, as I say on the website, we'll be looking in depth at what went wrong at the set pieces, what went right for Rangers in parts. Van Nistelrooy was just speaking in the press conference about how PSV struggled with Rangers' set up in the first half, and we'll be speaking about that and writing about that as well. So do get over and subscribe to the website. Thanks very much to everyone who joined me tonight. Hope you enjoyed the game. As I say, join us tomorrow. We'll have all the reaction to this, the build up to the weekend. I'm going to be over in Eindhoven next week, so we'll have loads of coverage over there. Let us know if you're going over. And until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.